When will we see the first test with premium VODs in a European cinema market, do you think?
I think we'll see the first test when the studios and distributors think that it's a viable business solution. And as far as I can see at the moment, you know, both in terms of what the window might be and in terms of what the price point might be, there isn't that appetite yet amongst distributors to do that. Now, it may be that, you know, for a certain type of small film, a film that actually doesn't get a very broad cinema release, then, you know, that may be the case. But then again, you know, what is premium about that? So in the UK, we've seen several films. A film called A Field in England, Bachelorette, and What Maisie Knew were all released on strategies that included some element of day and date.
There has been like a release or two of a film that was available physical and video on demand and in the cinema at the same time, right?
That was A Field in England. Yeah, which was a very small, a director called Ben Wheatley, a small release. But you know, even then, it's very difficult to draw conclusions about whether what may have been a success for that release will also be a success for broader releases.
But there has been bigger tests now in America and Canada with World War C and Man of Steel. Have you heard anything about the experiences from those tests?
No, I've not. I mean, typically studios tend to keep these numbers very close to their chest.
I attended a seminar in London 5-6 years ago, and a guy from Warner said, we're the only industry that uses millions upon millions to tell people to come to the cinema, and then we tell them, come back 4 months later and buy the DVD. Now the DVD market is shrinking, video on demand is on the rise, with especially the subscription services from Netflix, etc. But every time the studio wants to do a test, the exhibitors protest. I know they did try in America with a more like direct-to-video type of title. Wasn't that Tower Heist?
It was Tower Heist, with Ben Stiller.
And then your colleagues at in America, they sort of shut that test down.
I think the issue in the States with that particular example was twofold. One was actually the fact that this was a test which took place without any consultation or discussion. But there is of course also an in principle concern about, you know, kind of the extent to which this might have a negative effect on cinema and on the ability to invest. I mean, I absolutely understand the concern there is around you know, kind of the what might be seen as the lost momentum in terms of marketing. I think that's true of some films, not of others. But I think, you know, what there is increasing interest in is, if not the kind of premium VOD model, more of a sell-through model, so that when people buy a cinema ticket, they can get a QR code or whatever, which allows them to download the film, maybe slightly in advance of other people, but still maintain a theatrical window. We can't get past the fact that, you know, this is a high investment industry, cinema. So, you know, and many of these guys are tied into financing arrangements of, you know, 5 to 10 years.
But you don't need 3 or 4 months window anymore. A normal movie is finished within 6-7 weeks, right?
It is in many cinemas, but not all cinemas. And I think, you know, one of the things, the difficulty is that, you know, I think the concern is for those smaller cinemas that may get a film in week 8, week 9, you know, the impact on their audience will be the most marked. I think, you know, we may be having a different discussion if we were in a situation whereby all cinemas got films on release, but we're somewhere away from that at the moment. And
you think that will happen within 10 years? We'll have a day and date on every Windows?
No, I genuinely don't, because I don't think the business model works. I think what you would probably see is a broader range of distribution patterns.
How about all the people you mentioned? We have all these people who never go to the cinema. Wouldn't they rather be able to see the movie the same day as the release in the cinemas? Because then the studios would earn money on them.
I'm sure they would, but that wouldn't help the cinema, which has to invest hundreds of millions of euros in terms of technology.
Let's say now, within a year or 2 or 3, Netflix buys the largest cinema chain or the second largest in America. And they can change the whole game. If they do this, you know, you get it at the same date as or 2 weeks before Netflix, if you're a member, and you can see the movie in 2 weeks' time at Netflix, but you have to come to the cinema. then you and your colleagues will have to follow, right?
It's a different world then. It's a different world then. But what you will notice that even currently, where there are companies who are both cinema operators and distributors, they are strong supporters of the theatrical window as well.
Isn't there one in Canada, Cinémas?
Yeah, yeah.
They had a very good web page with everything.
Yeah.
I thought that was... Why don't more cinemas do this? Why aren't they investing in VOD? Why aren't they brands in the video on demand markets?
It's a very difficult market to get into. So there have been attempts by cinema operators in Europe to set up VOD platforms, but it's a hugely competitive market. You mentioned Netflix. Clearly, they're on almost a kind of seek and destroy mission with most other platforms. So you would have the investment you would need to make to achieve cut through in that market. I think is currently kind of a barrier to entry.
From London, how do you view the Norwegian cinema market? How does it look from your point of view?
I think it looks. I mean, you clearly are going through a very interesting change with the movement out of public ownership into private ownership. I think that will bring opportunities in terms of investment and potentially new business models. Clearly, from what I took from what John was saying there are synergies. No longer just Norway, but Sweden, Denmark, Finland, etc.
Do you understand Danish?
No, but I can see the pictures.
Okay, Phil.
Pleasure.
Thanks for your time.
No worries.